Over the next 100 days, I will be surviving in Minecraft with Pokemon. The mod Cobblemon adds Pokemon to Minecraft. It's very simple and very easy to use. But let's get right into it. First things first is choosing your starter. I always choose Charmander Pokemon games because it's a strong fire type. Over the course of the first day, there's really nothing special except apricorn farming, which is how you make Pokeballs in the Cobblemon mod. On the second night, we made the first two Pokeballs, which are Azure Balls and Citrine Balls. They're basically the same as normal Pokeballs, it's just they're easier to make. Using those Pokeballs, we caught my favorite, cutest Pokemon, Teddiursa. Later in that day, we actually were able to evolve Charmander into Charmeleon. And later on that day, we actually found a level 50 Mudsdale, and I did not expect to catch it on the first ball, but by a miracle, we caught it. The rest of that next day, which is consisting of apricorn farming and wood farming. Later in the night, we actually found a wild Eevee, and I wanted to try to get all the evolutions throughout this playthrough, but unfortunately I could only find a couple Eevees. And unfortunately we didn't get it on the first try, but that's okay. I got more than enough quick balls. Quick balls are easily used. They're used for a 5x multiplier on your first throw in a battle. But unfortunately, I switched to Citrine Balls and just tried to spam. Well, and then later the next day, I found a Thunderstone, and we were able to evolve Eevee into Jolteon. And I will say, I do love the animations in this mod. They're very fluid, and they're very cool to look at. The rest of the next day was just spent farming and terraforming. And on our first big mining expedition, I actually found an amethyst geode. At the time, I was not thinking of what I could use them for crafting recipes, but I threw away the amethyst shards. And about 5 minutes later, we found diamonds. And that was definitely not the end of finding diamonds. I managed to stumble into a mine shaft and get kinda scared by the cave spiders and almost end up dying. And at this point, I was kind of freaking out because there's not supposed to be normal mobs with the Cobblemon mod. You're normally just supposed to see Pokemon. And I thought this would make for an interesting little clip. But after fighting countless cave spiders and exploring through this mine shaft, we ended up stumbling upon some diamonds right outside of where I entered. And this led into a giant cave. I was probably stuck in this spot specifically for probably the better half of an hour. We found more and more and more diamonds. Usually I do not get this lucky. We also found shiny stones to evolve some Pokemon. And then we found even more diamonds and more diamonds and more diamonds. The diamonds were never ending throughout this entire expedition. I don't think I ever went back down for diamonds. I ended up with probably roughly 30 diamonds throughout this one mining expedition. We also found revival herbs, which at this point, I didn't realize how useful they really were, but these are used to revive your Pokemon before you get a healing station. Even though your Pokemon do heal every time you sleep, it's good for when you're battling. And then we proceeded to find more diamonds. And I finally made my way up to the surface after probably about 2 hours down in the mines. And then we finally made our way back home to the village and made an oranberry farm so that I could heal my Pokemon during battle and outside of battle. And then some more terraforming just to get a base going, because I wanted to terraform this little section so I could make a farm. I think in this entire playthrough, I probably spent better half of 10 hours terraforming and farming. But I absolutely love the way the apricorn slabs look compared to the normal oak wood. While looking through the controls, I found the Cobblemon controls that had a free look riding option. And at that time, I did not look too closely, but I actually was able to figure out that I could ride on my Mudsdale. Even though it wasn't the quickest, we still managed to have some sort of transport throughout this playthrough. Took a little bit of research and a little bit of messing around, but I figured out that while shift right clicking your Pokemon, if there is a ride option available, you can ride on your Pokemon. And Mudsdale looks absolutely massive compared to me. But then it was straight back to the normal stuff of finding a bunch of blue logs. But I actually did manage to find a Cyclizar. I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Scarlet recently, so it was interesting to see up-to-date Pokemon in there. And after catching Cyclizar, his speed stat is actually quite a bit higher than Mudsdale. So I use Cyclizar as my main transport Pokemon. As you can see here, he is quite a bit faster. But all Pokemon do have a sprint bar, so it's a little of a gamble when trying to figure out where you're gonna go. While planting some more blue saplings, we actually managed to find an Electabuzz, and a level 50 Electabuzz. I was not gonna catch it, but then I decided to. And I unfortunately did not get it on the first quick ball. Or the second. But we managed to capture it on the third quick ball. And this was the house slash base that I was building so I can move out of the villager healing station. I went with a very blue Team Aqua kind of vibe, just to match my character and how I like the color blue. Then it was back to terraforming to make more space, to actually build a little storage room. Even though this is where I was going to put it, I ended up moving it to the left side of my house. I probably spent more time terraforming around my house and around the world than I did actually playing with the Pokemon. But this is when I started to build on the left side of my house a nice little storage room so that my house wouldn't be too cluttered. Originally, I went with the same dimensions lengthwise as my house. But then I realized if I wanted to fit chests with a gap in between each one, I would have to expand it just a little bit. So I ended up having to expand it, but we're using the Cobblemon blue trees to make everything blue and make a blue and gray and black color scheme. But then it was back to mining more blue trees for probably the better half of another hour. Editor's note, this is an unnormal video for me. I don't usually do long form content, so if you guys are enjoying it, let me know in the comments and make sure to drop a like and subscribe. But later that night, we decided to make a cooking pot. A cooking pot is how to make revives. You can't just buy them from shops like you would in a normal Pokemon game. There's no currency in this mod. So the cooking pot acts as a way to make revives, and you need a max revive to make a healing station. And I didn't know that until probably about day 50. This was probably day 60, 70. But we're just decorating a little bit here just to make it look all nice. But after we finished all the decorating, there was some important stuff to do for the night, and that was making a Pokedex. So we made a Pokedex, we looked through the Pokemon we had, and then I started scanning. Scanning is a way to log Pokemon if you don't want to catch them. But I try to scan my Charmeleon and it shows me the type, the level, and the name. And if I don't have a Pokemon discovered, like the Voltorb over here, then it will show me all that information without me having to battle it or kill it in order to register it. And then I just did a little bit of touch-ups on the storage hut as I was finishing, just making some signs to tell me where I have things placed. Unfortunately, I didn't start using the actual storage system in probably the last couple of days. I kind of forgot it was there. Then we started gathering obsidian so I could go to the Nether. I want to go to the Nether and check out if there was any different Pokemon. And unfortunately, my obsidian grind wasn't the greatest. I was very close inside my mines, but I kind of messed up the portal and I had to rebuild it. And that wasn't the greatest time. I had to scrap the portal and start again so I could rebuild it. But after that catastrophe, we were ready to go to the Nether. Except one piece. I forgot to get flint and steel before I grabbed obsidian. So after I finished building the portal, I grabbed flint and steel, and just like that, we were off to the Nether. And once we got in the Nether, I already noticed that it was different. The mods in this mod pack added a red tinge to everything because of the shaders. So everything looked red, so I couldn't really tell what I was looking at. But we decided to grab some quartz here and then head off. and then I decided to grab some glowstone because there was absolutely no lighting in any of my builds yet. And then I found a Larvesta. I really love Volcarona. Unfortunately, I'm not the smartest when it comes to battles. My first quick ball didn't work, so I tried to weaken it with Mudsdale and unfortunately ended up killing it. I did find a way to get blaze powder, but I still had no way to find ender pearls. And once we were back in the overworld, I did a little bit of grinding, and I was able to evolve my Charmeleon into Charizard. And I already knew that this was going to be the best. There is a beautiful Charizard that knows how to fly. And this was the segue to traveling thousands of meters away from home. And you gotta admit, it looks absolutely sick riding on top of a Charizard. Our first stop was finding a Gimmighoul shrine. These are scattered all over the world, and I just decided to kill Gimmighoul and then leave. And then we found a Gimmighoul tower. I killed the Gimmighoul, picked up the smoker, and we were off again. This was the first interesting thing I found. I probably was traveling for about 30 minutes after the Gimmighoul tower, and we found a village. The first of 4 that I found within an hour. I decided to waypoint all of them so that I wouldn't forget where they were, just in case I wanted to come back and make trades with the villagers. I did find some XP candies in there and some orange berries. But besides that, I didn't really pick up the heals. After I picked up the heals, we set out again, and I found a villager outpost. But unfortunately, there was no pillagers in sight, and there was no loot in sight either. So I thought it was kind of strange. I landed on it, and just kind of took off. On to village number 2. This was the second one of 4, and I was looking for one specific item, the Vivichoke seeds. I needed that to make a max revive to make a healer. As you saw earlier, there was a healer in a village, but when you break it with any kind of pickaxe other than a silk touch, it breaks into just 2 iron rinkets. And then we traveled to village 3. Village 3, and then village 4. Village 4 was the one that treated me the best. I ended up finding Vivichoke seeds inside this village. After climbing around, checking up on all the buildings and checking every chest in sight, I thought all hope was lost. And then I went up this little waterfall and went to the final houses. And this glitched house right in front of me was going to be my savior. Inside this chest was the Vivichoke seeds I had been searching for the last 2 hours. So we went home and we planted those, and we got the ability to make revives and max revives. I didn't think I was going to find them because I haven't seen any in the wild, but after finding them, I was so relieved. And returning to the base with a full inventory, I put all those items away, it was time to put up some new lights in the house. I wanted to get the glowstone from the nether to light up the house, and none of my builds were lit at all. And I also decided, while we were at it, to put down the brewing stand, the smoker, and the blast furnace, just to tidy up inside the house. And then I crafted a PC, and I could finally switch out my Pokemon on day 99. I didn't really end up catching a lot of Pokemon. I was killing a lot of Pokemon and not really catching, because the Pokemon I had already caught were already level 50. So at the time, I didn't really need to pick up any more Pokemon. But after that, we made the revives, and then on to the max revives. And you would not believe how happy I was to get this max revive. It took me way too long to get Vivid Choke seeds. And now we were finally ready to make a healer and complete day 99 on a good note. We crafted the healer, placed it right next to the PC, and then took our final sleep on day 99. And on day 100 is where the series ends.